Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce and Joyce, juror number two, maybe number one in our hearts.
It will always be number one in our hearts. It is not number one on Warner Brothers FIC page, but it is there now.
They finally added it, Joyce.
They finally added it.
It,
So it's a on the bottom tier by itself. The first tier, Dune Part 2, Joker, Folie à Deux, Superman, Christopher Reeve story, Beetlejuice, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Roger, however you pronounce it. And then third tier, juror number two.
couple of things here. A, I love your pronunciation of World Juror, Lord of the Rings movie.
Yeah.
Two, when does Joker Folie à Deux come out?
Again, season two of Shogun, same time.
Got it. And juror number two definitely just shoehorned in there at the bottom. But
Yeah,
love to
toss it
see
in.
it.
They cobbled this together.
It seems
So
like they were shamed into maybe doing it, Joyce.
yes,
So the yes, period. So the movie came out, premiered at AFI, a lot of negative reviews, and then
I wouldn't
people
say a
saw
lot of negatives, but like some. But it was mostly positive.
some loud negative reviews. How about that
I
as a
would say
revision?
like the negative reviews were just tweets.
And then more people saw it and were like, actually, this movie's really
Yeah,
great.
the actual reviews were positive.
And then why is it not being released in theaters? And why is there not an FYC campaign? And then now it's remaining in theaters this week. We're recording this on Wednesday. Nothing in the news but this, Joyce. Not a
Yeah.
thing. And it's staying in theaters this weekend. Still a small amount of theaters, and
I don't even
eventually it'll be
know if I
on.
can. I don't even know if I can see it this weekend. I
I,
don't know.
I
I'll probably have to see it on Max next month.
well,
This
you'll
Max movie.
you'll be able to see this Max movie probably by Christmas time. Uh, Joyce, I was talking to somebody the other day who had seen it, and I was like, "Man, you know, I really love Juror Number Two. I just think it's a really good movie. Uh, just totally solid watch." And they were like, "Oh, it just feels like a regular movie." And they were like, "It was nice to watch a movie and not think about it as an awards movie."
I mean, this is what we talk about a lot, and this is what we talk about when the trailer dropped for
Yes.
this. It looks like a movie. It looks like a 90s John Grisham adaptation in 2024.
And I guess my
And I
question is,
never thought about Oscars for John Grisham movies in the 90s.
but let me ask you this. And I guess this kind of could tie into here, which flopped, but I also saw. What if regular movies did deserve like is this especially near like the I'm not saying I don't think Juror Number Two is getting any kind of awards runway here, but don't you think in a year like this, I just keep going back to like the Departed year because I was like, that felt like a year where there was not a lot of movies that people were passionate about, and then the regular in quotes movie just won. And I'm like, while Juror Number Two is maybe not that movie, is this the year when a regular movie will probably could win? I guess like a movie.
Yeah, I think that is the vibe, even if people are not thinking like what is just a populist movie that could win, because no one can agree on right now on November 6th what's going to win Best Picture. Like Anora isn't first in the odds, but I think if you talk to a lot of people, they're not confident in that winning. Like I have it at first, but I'm not here being like it's definitely winning. I just have it in there because it's most likely to be nominated.
It's very likely to be nominated. I
And
have
then
a
like other people have, like The Brutalist, Emilia Perez, like this week, Conclave, a lot of stands, a lot of people are like, can Conclave win Best Picture?
so
So
couple of things. I saw Conclave again, Joyce. Went to the movies, local AMC, on a Monday night at 8:30. Probably like 15 people there. More people at that than opening weekend of Joker, which I was just like, man, this is like a thing. I think this movie is like generating interest.
I mean, it's always been a thing. My friend's dad finally saw it.
Oh, what was his review,
Do
Joyce?
you want his review?
Yes, of course.
Um, Hold on. So if you recall, this is the same person who last year despised Maestro.
Yes. For new
So
listeners, this is one of Joyce's friends' dads.
yes, so this is his review of Conclave, which he was looking forward to watching. Quote, good acting, good writing, has a twist in it. Not like you're going to say it is one of the best movies you've ever seen, but it's good entertainment. All the actors are good, end quote. And you know what? Very accurate.
Could not disagree with one single
Yeah.
thing there. I
Mhm.
having watched it again, here's my big takeaway. And I was like, I actually watching it again, I was like, I actually think this could also win Best Picture very easily. I was like, acting is really good. I do enjoy everyone in the movie. And remain like unclear on if any of the supporting actors will be able to break out among each other. Great cinematography, great score. Love the score.
Best score.
I think the script is actually really good. It's a good adaptation. I don't know the categories where I was like, I think it could be in, but it may be one editing and sound. I actually think sound it should be in, but I'm not sure it will, based on like some of the bigger movies. But it is a good sound movie, Joyce,
There's an explosion.
and a lot of like writing,
Yes, and
sound
just
writing.
um like the waiting, like the sound in when they're voting.
Yes,
And then like the tension in the room when they're casting their ballots.
a lot of the sound reminded me of the great Netflix show Ripley, Joyce. Ripley
Yes.
won an Emmy for its sound editing.
Yeah, it's about like the absence of sound in a way in both of those films, like in certain scenes.
So I kind of
When
want
the
to.
silence is prevailing, but there's like lower ambient sound.
So I kind of want to put it in for sound. Maybe I should put it in for sound.
Do it.
I have Complete Unknown in too, and Blitz. Do you think Blitz gets in for sound, Joyce?
I mean, great sound, beautiful sound. That also opened limited this
Yes.
past weekend.
See it on Apple in a couple of weeks. Anyway, I was like, oh, interesting. What's going to win Best Picture? Because, like you're saying, like all these different things. I have Amelia Perez in first choice, which you could argue is because I think it'll most likely to be nominated. And at one point, I thought it maybe would win. And yet now I don't have it in for director, screenplay, or editing. So I'm like, maybe it's not going to win if it's not going to get those nominations.
I have that in third, I think. I think I'll get in, obviously, and I'll get several nominations. But I think it'll just come up short in the end. Like I think there's people who hate musicals, obviously. And then I think it'll probably just miss some key nominations like screenplay.
And it could miss director. I just feel like that could happen.
I mean, this week we also got the European Film Awards nomination. So that did well. It got four nominations, co-led with Room Next Door. Jacques Audiard got in. So I think that's like a good sign that he has Euro support
Okay.
there. So like last year, Anatomy of Fall dominated
Right.
and won four. The year before that, Triangle of Sadness dominated, won
Right.
four.
So
So
if I was going to put Jock in, I'd have to drop Ridley or Denny. I don't want to drop either of them. I don't want to do that.
just do it. Why not?
Well, I have Ridley in first, so maybe I should just drop him and wait until the Gladiator 2 reviews come out and then be like, oh yeah, I love Gladiator 2.
And then you'll put him back in.
And I'll put him back in.
I mean, you could just drop Denis.
I feel like Denis campaigning so heavily though.
But that doesn't mean anything.
You're right. All right, Denis, sorry to that
You're
man.
just blinded by your love of campaigns.
I love the campaign choice.
Yeah, but you could put in the work and they
Okay,
might
if I put Jock
not
in,
vote
so
for
then I
you.
have, so now I can keep Amelia Perez in first place for now. But I don't think it's out of bounds for to suggest that he could miss director, and I would not have it in for screenplay at all. So anyway, juror number two, Joyce. So not going anywhere. Do we think this is going to get any kind of any awards anywhere? Let's start there. Like, will it be able to gin up a campaign, an interest?
I mean, well, so they were basically bullied, Warner Brothers, into launching a minor campaign for this, putting
That's
this
what
on
it
their
seems
website.
like.
So it's like, what are they gonna do? And like Clint is not gonna do anything, obviously. So it's really up to the cast,
Yeah.
if they want to put in the work with the cast. Um,
When we talked about it last week, And you haven't seen it yet, right? You're still going to see it on Max, as we talked about here.
I mean, listen, this is gonna be pulled like by Monday probably. So
Uh, I was like, the only nomination I really could see in a wild year would be like directors lining up behind Clint, but I actually don't think that's a real thing. And I don't think it would get anything else, even though everyone is really good. And I thought the score was really good, but I'm like, I don't know,
no,
maybe
it's just always felt like even before all of this, it just always kind of felt like this is a like a rock solid movie that people will like, but is probably not designed for award success, and that's okay.
I I guess one of the things I was wondering too is like we've been talking about Best Actor, and we can talk about that in a little bit at the Oscars, but in these other ceremonies, it does still feel like there's four guys for five spots. And that fifth spot at each of these ceremonies could be somebody different. Like the Golden Globes obviously will have comedy, has six spots and comedy and drama. So I'm like, I guess Nicholas Hoult could make it in for this at the Globes. Like, I wouldn't predict it, but if it happened, I guess I wouldn't be shocked. You have to go 12 deep in actor.
I mean, there's 6 spots there. There's also 6 spots at Critics' Choice,
I'd be more surprised if he got in a Critics' Choice.
6 spots at BAFTA.
I don't think it's going to make it a BAFTA, but I could see him getting in at the Globes. I also think SAG could be uh unpredictable in that last spot.
I would feel better about it if this were like a Netflix movie.
When we went to New York Film Festival, Joyce, last month, I guess, or 2 months ago now, maybe last month, whenever it was, and we saw Amelia Perez. We were talking to a good pal, Wilson Morales, and he floated Bob Marley, One Love, and Kingsley Ben-Adir as a contender. And then this week, I saw somebody tweeting about that as well, and I was like,
Was that his
"Watch this."
burner?
It wasn't my burner. It wasn't
No,
Wilson.
his burner.
Wasn't Wilson's burner. And I was like, what if he gets in an actor at SAG for that last spot?
I think that's like a little, I don't think it's the same as like Jennifer Hudson with respect.
Okay. With respect to Jennifer
You get
Hudson
you
and
get
Kingsley
so
Ben-Adir.
you get so worried when things like come in front of your eyes and then you
You
latch
know, the
onto
last
them.
thing I read and see is something I'm
Yeah,
interested
this is
in.
your problem.
But I was also like, when I'll just say this: when Wilson said this to us, I literally laughed in his face. And now I'm like, maybe I should shoot him a text and be like, oh, well, you maybe
I
weren't
mean, the
as
Globe
foolish
Six
as
in
I thought.
drama could be the four that everyone has. It could just Daniel Craig and like
Right.
Nick or Paul Mescal or Sebastian Stan, who people are probably dropping today. So from
So,
everywhere.
uh, something we talked about previously was how does that movie, The Apprentice, play having Trump if Trump wins? Now Trump has won, and now we have Sebastian Stan playing Trump in a movie that has really disappeared. It's on VOD now. You can watch it if you haven't seen it. Would Hollywood want to celebrate or honor guy playing Trump? And I'm thinking no at this point.
I think it's less about that, like honoring sub or whatever, or like putting a spotlight on it. I think the movie is just so low key, you know, and I agree. I think it'll probably be harder to get people to watch it now when it shows up in their screener pile, but I think even before that, I think it was so easy for it to get lost.
Yeah, I don't I think that was the biggest issue. We talked about this. He's great in the movie. I actually think the movie is really good. And it just didn't seem with no disrespect to Briarcliff, it's like without a major platform behind it, it's going to be hard to get people probably
I
interested
mean, they did the
anyway.
best they could with it.
Yes,
I mean, at a certain point a couple months ago, this wasn't even coming out, so
right.
they got it out. And it wasn't like it was ever going to do gangbusters at the box
No,
office.
I
So,
I also think the movie asks you to empathize with Trump, and I don't think that's in vogue. now.
I don't think it does that per se. I think it's more asking the viewer to look inward. And I think
Sure.
people don't like that
Correct.
because like there are these the qualities in Trump, like to various degrees, are probably among everyone, and it's just like how much you as a person access them. And we see in the movie that, he accessed all of them, thanks to Roy Cohn and everything. Greed corrupts, and um, I think people don't like to look at themselves, or they might not even have the intelligence to look at themselves, and they just see this as like, yeah, like an empathetic portrayal of Trump in a way,
Well,
which is
when I guess that's what I mean by empathetic, because it's asking you to look at him as like a human being, like yourself.
yeah, and like
So
I mean, he is a human being, and this is a Frankenstein story. But yeah, I don't think people will understand what it's trying to do.
when I saw To Tell You Right, Ali Abbasi was like, "This movie is a mirror for American audiences," and I was like, "That's cool. That's definitely what it is." And I was like, "That's not gonna fly. No one wants this movie right now." So I'm not gonna. I took him out, and I don't know what to do there. I think I have Jesse Eisenberg in there now at the Oscars because I don't think uh Daniel Craig is getting in, and I moved
I
off
mean,
Paul
it could just
Mescal.
be Daniel all along, just because there's no other option, and I think what's funny about him is that like so Queer is obviously not out yet. But big Variety cover this week.
Looked great. Went viral a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I mean those quotes, man.
He's great.
So uh so he's someone who I think could hit all the maybe not all, but like most of the precursors. But he could be, since a lot of them have six spots now, he could be in six in all of them. I mean, a lot of these people can be in six. So he could still miss at the Oscars, with
Hmm.
their system and five spots.
I guess right now to me the Jesse Eisenberg feels most realistic because I think that movie will be more liked than these other movies. And not that I think like I don't know if Real Pain will get a Best Picture nomination, but I feel like the people who like A Real Pain will be more passionate about Jesse Eisenberg than the people who love Gladiator 2 and Paul Mescal, right? Like I don't think there's gonna be a lot of enthusiasm or passion for Paul, even though I think the movie will do better, at least as a Best Picture nominee, than Real Pain. But maybe they both get in. I don't know.
I mean, we've said how Paul is basically the Tom Cruise of this year,
Yeah,
but like Daniel could just be the Paul of this year,
correct.
ironically. Because like 2 years ago, we are like, oh, people love like Paul Mescal and After Sun, but it's so small and like, will they even watch it or whatever? And like Queer and After Sun are two very different movies, but it's just kind of like the same thing. It's like,
Hmm.
and like Daniel is good and Queer, but I think it's a the I think like parts of that movie will lose people at a certain point.
That's a good way to say it, Joyce. Uh one name we didn't mention here in Best Actor, but you could watch this movie if you're in a city with a I don't know, a Netflix theater like New York, the Paris theater. You could watch this movie right now before it comes to Netflix in 2 or 3 weeks. The Piano Lesson, Joyce, and John David Washington.
Um, you know, maybe SAG.
What to make of The Piano Lesson, Joyce? Would be my first question. A solid movie that I don't know a single person who disliked,
Yeah.
and yet it's hanging on barely, and like the only real sure nomination it seems that most people are expecting is Danielle Deadwyler in supporting actress.
Yes. So this is the third um August Wilson adaptation that Denzel Washington has produced. He's not in this one. But it's a family affair with Malcolm directing and John David in it. And I would say this is probably um I don't like favorite's probably a strong word, but I think I like this one, or I think this is the best one of the three. Of like
I
between this, Fences and Ma Rainey.
so I agree with that, and I was like, none of these movies, no, this was like not highly rewatchable to me. Fences and Ma Rainey.
I have never watched Fences or Ma Rainey again. I'm sorry. And like,
Piano
and
Lesson, I would,
I enjoyed them when I watched them back
yes,
then, you know.
Piano Lesson, I would actually watch again. I thought it was definitely again. I haven't. That means I haven't seen Fences in a very long time. When
In
did this
eight
movie?
years.
In 8 years. So I haven't seen it in a very long time. And I'm just like, oh, I just feel like this one was the best one. It felt like the most cinematic. Again, having not
It's
seen
definitely the
Fences in
most
8 years.
cinematic. Um, I mean, obviously it's adapted from a play, so there's a lot of speaking and dialogue, and then the way they open up the film to illustrate what is being said is cinematic. Or
Yes,
you're not like you're not confined to the room where the words are being said.
correct. So those other movies were bigger Oscar contenders than Piano Lesson is expected to be.
Yes. Well,
One
Fences,
Oscars.
yeah, they both won Oscars. Fences won supporting actress for
Yes.
Viola. It made Best Picture. Denzel was nominated for Best Actor. He won SAG, and Ma Rainey probably would have gone to Best Picture had it been a hard 10, but it missed, and it won two um, for makeup and costumes.
And
So
it was clearly win competitive, at least for Best Actor.
yes, yes, and you could and also Best Actress, like she won SAG, Viola won SAG.
So these other movies, great awards track records, then, in theory. This is the best of these movies. It's on Netflix. It's a down year in terms of we're having a tough time filling out the bottom 10 for Best Picture. We just were talking about Best Actor, where there's four guys for five spots. Supporting actress, not totally locked in, I feel like, in a lot of different ways. All these crafts categories. And yet I barely have it hanging on for Danielle in supporting. I think I have her in fifth place because I'm afraid she'll be a lone nominee and drop off.
Yeah, I like she can easily miss again if she's going to
So,
be alone.
but why are we not taking it more like I don't know, should we be taking it more seriously? I guess that's what I'm wondering about this movie. I will look forward to watching it again. I talked to one of my friends. She had seen it at TIFF and then rewatched it for an interview she was doing because they've been on the junket tour. You know, they're doing the press for the movie. And she was like, I really liked it a lot the second time. And I'm like, man, maybe like is this just are we underestimating this movie? Is it easy to imagine it getting a SAG Ensemble nomination and maybe at least one other individual SAG nomination with Danielle, maybe John David Washington as well. And then could it either get in as a lower tier Best Picture nominee, maybe some of these like other categories, adapted screenplay, and even could Samuel Jackson or somebody else in the acting cast rebound and grab a wide open supporting actor category as well, like a nomination there? I don't know.
I think SAG is definitely its best shot to expand beyond Danielle. I mean, I think I had it in ensemble at one point, like months ago.
Right.
You know, like it's on
What?
Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like definitely the type of movie that they would go for. Um, and I'm looking right now and it's in 15th place in Best Picture, behind The Substance and A Complete Unknown and
Now,
Wicked.
I have Complete Unknown in, and I think that could pop, and it's very easy to imagine that like doing well. I don't think there's been a lot. We talked about this in our column choice. There's been a lot of enthusiasm for the substance. I definitely think it's playing better with older people than you might expect from the log line and the grotesque body horror. But I would still be very surprised if it got in for Best Picture, I guess.
Yeah, because that's everyone voting, and I don't know. I think like you need. It really depends on like how soft the bottom is.
Well, that's why I'm like, maybe, I mean, like, yeah, like I just keep going back to this, like, man, Piano is not bad. It's not a bad movie. People like it. I think it's better than these other two movies. And like, maybe it should be in there. Maybe it gets, is it possible it gets picture adapted screenplay and Danielle in instead of being a lone nominee?
I think it needs to when it hits Netflix, I think it needs to pop, and I don't know if it will. because it's landing there on the 22nd, which is the day that Wicked and
Hmm.
Gladiator 2 come out. And I feel like that will just kind of be the dominant conversation
Right.
for a while. So I think you're like relying on people discovering on Netflix, which is possible, but I don't know. I think yeah, like there's nothing bad about the movie. There's something it's really well made. Um and all the actors are good. You know, a lot of them reprised their roles from the stage, except for Danielle, who replaced Danielle Brooks. So it's yeah, but I guess I don't know if it's also a movie that like you are looking for to watch on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, like of the Netflix awards movies, I think that are coming in the next few couple of months here on Netflix. Like Amelia Perez, I think will have an interest factor because it's like people have heard about it or they want to like see what the fuss is about, and it's like a big swing. And even if they don't like musicals, they're gonna want to probably at least check it out, whether they finish it or not. This is a regular person I'm talking about, not like a an awards voter. And then Maria, I think I would argue, well, no, I think Maria could play like for like the Crown crowd, right? Like it feels
Yeah,
like an episode
it's
of the
for
Crown.
like biopic basics.
And then Piano Lesson, I think they'll probably, I wonder how much they'll try to promote the horror aspect of it or the like the supernatural aspect of it. And one of the trailers, the initial trailers, they really kind of leaned into that, and that is what makes it to me interesting. But I do think there would be like an audience for that, though maybe they'll be turned off if they realize it's not like
I mean,
a
it's not a supernatural
yes,
like it's just like an element of it.
right.
But it's not like a scary movie or anything.
No, not at all. But I was like, I wonder if like I could see people watching it though. I don't know. I just am like I wonder like I don't have it in for adapted screenplay. Here's what I have. I have Conclave, Sing Sing, Nickel Boys, Room Next Door, and A Complete Unknown. I'm just going all in on A Complete Unknown. But in the odds, Amelia Perez is in fourth and Dune is in fifth. Piano Lesson is in seventh. I'm like, maybe I should just have it in there.
It kind of like reminds me of Blitz in a way. Like they're both similar to me and like they're both fine movies. Um and I but I feel like neither of them really inspires passion. And I think the only reason Blitz is higher and more widely predicted across the board is because of the Steve McQueen factor.
I don't disagree, but let me ask you this, just to play devil's advocate. Was there really passion for Ma Rainey or Fences? Now, Ma Rainey didn't get in for Best Picture, obviously, but like, was there passion for
No,
those
but I
movies?
think for Fences, it was like a lot about Viola's performance. Like that was the thing that this was going to be like her Oscar
Hmm.
play, and then it was like was she going to go lead or supporting. So I think
Right.
and then obviously Denzel directed it too, and he was in it. So I think that was part of it. Ma Rainey was obviously Chadwick Boseman. So
And so they had these like unifying like centerpiece things that were very attractive to voters. You could also argue, I guess, that Fences was like not a novelty in a bad way, but like the first of these like Denzel produced August Wilson adaptations for the screen, and so like that's like gonna give it a leg up on these other movies comparatively. And obviously, Ma Rainey didn't even get in for Best Picture, which was a snub at the time, but like not indicative of enthusiasm. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm like trying to figure out. I wouldn't even after talking this through. I'm not going to go throw it in for Best Picture. And I guess even if it got a SAG Ensemble nomination, I wouldn't. But I do think it could factor other places besides Danielle, I guess, and maybe that would be make
it's fun
sense.
because it's like I think we've talked about this before. There are a lot of good crafts in it, like costume. Like I love one of her dresses.
Great
And
costumes, beautiful
yeah,
costumes.
but I feel like this is a bad in quotes year for crafts in a way. Like if you're not the kind of genre or flashy crafts movie.
Yeah, it feels like it's not as like not meaning this totally in terms of quality, but it's not a strong year. But all the strong movies are like the same, like Wicked, Gladiator, Dune, uh, you know, Blitz, like these are big crafts movies. The Brutalist, even Conclave, right? Like those are like crafts heavy movies, and so like something like Piano Lesson is
And
really
like
limited,
Maria for costumes, like
right? Like Piano Lesson is like limited into that Honora September 5 area where it's like really and only an above the line play, maybe. And it's not as strong as those movies. So then like that kind of hurts its overall chances.
yeah. So
So you have Danielle still,
yes.
and I do too. But we're not nearly as confident in her nomination, which we've talked about. I think we read an email a couple weeks ago, was it last week, that was like uh not a fan of the movie or pointed out some flaws in the movie, maybe.
Um, yeah, I think we've talked about her multiple times.
And obviously the internet wants her to get nominated.
Yes.
But as we've seen in other aspects of the world, the internet not always the most
The internet is not
reliable
real life.
indicator, right, of how things might happen. So I don't. If she missed, I wouldn't be surprised. I guess I saw I mentioned I saw Conclave Joyce in the real world, and man, Isabella Rossellini has that great one scene, and it even didn't get an applause in this theater of like 15 people, but it did get. I heard reactions,
Like a whoop.
like a little whoop, like a little this. That said, it is a real. She is really not. It's like a. It is a very small part. No small parts, only small actors. Right? Is that the idea? But man, she's very not in it very much, and like I still think she'll get in. But I was like, I guess I could argue that she is not. I mean, in the odds, she's sixth, but I was like, I don't know. I think she's higher, and I think Selena Gomez would still get in for Amelia Perez. But you could argue there's room here beyond like Zoe Saldana and Felicity Jones. So Danielle, in one way, is probably safe. But if she's going to be a lone nominee,
I think that's like her biggest issue because Isabella is not in her movie a lot, obviously,
right?
but Conclave is stronger
So
than Piano
basically,
Lesson.
Danielle would be like uh alone. I don't know, like Danielle Brooks then from last year, where everybody we jumped off her for Color Purple, and then she still got in.
And she got in over like Penelope Cruz for Ferrari.
Right. And so this year you're looking at Anjanae Ellis Taylor and Saoirse Ronan are fourth and fifth in the odds currently.
Where's Ariana? Because she's
So
been so
Ariana Grande, which we're recording this Wednesday, Joyce. We're seeing Wicked later. We'll talk about this in the coming weeks. Ariana Grande is in eighth place and rising.
you're gonna put her in immediately.
I absolutely put her in, but I'm trying to figure out who I will drop. I actually might drop Selena Gomez.
Is there room for two former child actors slash pop stars
Unclear.
with huge stan armies?
Unclear. But I was like, I don't know if I would drop Danielle, I guess. The thing with Danielle Deadwyler is like I don't think it would generate if you're thinking of her as a lone nominee and trying to compare it, it's tough to compare over year or whatever. But all these caveats. If it's like Danielle Brooks in Color Purple, that Danielle Brooks, the character in Color Purple is like a lightning rod for awards and also like generates a lot of passion positively. And I think Danielle in Piano Lesson is very good and is a lead, frankly. So she's more like Zoe Saldana, but there's not as much passion, I don't think, around that character and that performance, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's just like not fun, not like it's supposed to be. But I think that's the difference between their characters.
Right. And like Danielle Brooks in Color was there's like a showy part, right? Like it's a big
Yeah.
scenery chewing part. And like this is not that, even though she has like a lot of depth and a lot of like really good scenes. Like I still think her scene with Ray Fisher is maybe the best thing in the whole movie.
Ray Fisher is great.
And it
So
would be great to see him get in. I mean, maybe I'll drop her for Ariana Grande. Obviously, I'm going to put Ariana Grande in here once I see the movie. So, like, we already know that. If you're watching this on Thursday, it's already happened. Like, she's already in there. I just have to
you're
figure
gonna
out.
have Wicked in first.
Well, I actually think Wicked could win Best Picture, but I'm not going to put it in first. I already have it in my picks. I might put it in for.
Yeah, that's why I said you're gonna put it in first.
Oh,
You're gonna move it
I
up,
didn't even put Gladiator in first. I just moved it up.
but you'll put it
Um,
in first.
But I don't know who to drop if put Ariana Grande in. I guess I could still see Danielle Deadwyler getting in. I don't know. It's funny. There's a lot of room in this category, it feels like, and yet she could still be a lone nominee, like we're saying, and maybe that hurts. But
Yeah, and then I guess it'll be interesting to see if she will hit all the precursors because she didn't even do that for Till. Like she was snubbed at the Globes for
some of the
Till
Globes would hit BAFTA, right?
with their juries,
So no juries now
which
for
are gone.
BAFTA. That's
So,
gone. So now we're like, okay, back to everyone voting. Or I think the acting chapter picks. Is that what it's like?
well, if they still have their long list, but there's no more jury because you know what they did, the 3 and 3 and
You know, I
everything.
understand that. So like now it's like there's an acting chapter that picks the long list, I think.
Yeah, like but the long lists like existed like that. This
Yes.
was the thing before juries
Yes.
anyway. Like
Yes.
this is they're just eliminating juries.
So now it's just going to be whoever gets the most votes wins,
Yes.
basically. Uh, yeah, I don't know if she'd make it in at BAFTA. I also don't think so. Like another thing thinking about this is like from a critic's perspective, I think this would have to be like if it's not going to be like this broad movie that gets in a lot of spots, then I also think she has to be like kind of a critic's fave, would you argue? Like, I don't think Danielle Brooks was a critic's fave, but I think the people who love, like, that was a performance that people still talked about, even if the movie wasn't very good. And I'm like, this movie is better than Color Purple, I would say, in like all facets. But I just think
Yeah.
like it's better as an ensemble movie than as an individual. Like I think the parts are greater, or the sum of the whole is greater than the parts.
I mean, Color Purple also came so late last year
Right.
that I don't even think like Danielle made a lot of like regionals like obvious and Dave Vine obviously just dominated everything. So like I don't know who would I don't think there will be like a sweeper like that in that category this year. I could see I guess like Zoe doing well with regionals. But I don't know like what the highbrow
So that's what I was just going to ask you. So like
goes
Zoe, I could see
for.
doing well at regionals too. In like at the Gotham Awards, these were the supporting performance nominees. Now again, not indicative of anything except for this small jury of 5 people, but many of them are also on like New York Film Critics Circle or whatever. At least one of them is at this. I think the performance one, at least one person was in New York Film Critics Circle, but it was for actresses. Even though it's a gender neutral category, the actresses who were nominated were Danielle Deadwyler, Brigitte Lundy Payne, Natasha Lyonne, Katie O'Brien. That's it. So I could see like, is Natasha Lyonne going to win like New York Film Critics Circle or with Danielle Deadwyler? I don't think there's like based on like their letterboxes and reviews. I don't think the New York Film Critics Circle was super gaga over Piano Lesson. Again, not that they didn't like it, the people I'm thinking of, but like they're not like their fave.
Yeah, and Brigitte is non-binary too,
Right.
so
Right.
it's like well, I mean, remember when Danielle won Gotham for Till and she wasn't there and people got mad
Mm-hmm.
as if that mattered. Um I like there's gonna be 5 people picking the winner, so it's like whatever, it doesn't matter who
I'm not
wins
saying
it.
this matters either, right? But
Like,
I'm just like,
but I I don't know if yeah, like the highbrow critics, I don't know if she'd win that either. I could see them like especially like New York doing like a cool pick like Margaret Qualley or something,
so that's what I was wondering. Like, does Mark Qualley win New York or does like Natasha
who's
Lyonne win New
who's
York?
like 2 minutes less screen time than Demi.
We
So
talked. I was not surprised you said that to me, and I was totally non surprised because I was like, it felt like watching the movie that Demi Moore's not in it as much as
no,
people
like
think.
that's always like I think it's obvious to anyone watching the movie. I think like they're playing the same person and they're not on screen at the same time really until the end. So
So okay, so like if Margaret Qualley wins like New York Film Critics Circle, or like Natasha Lyonne does, or in LA again, non-gendered categories, does like Margaret Qualley win there? You know what I mean? Like maybe that's like Danielle Deadwyler doesn't seem like she would be winning these highbrow critics groups.
no, but I think like those are she doesn't need to win them and it like this the critics portion of the season is really just for momentum. Um and like Globes are not industry either, obviously, but it's like if but they're more because of the new membership, they're more like critics than the HFPA of old anyway. So if she can make it in there, that would be good for her. She'll probably make it into Critics' Choice, which is like whatever.
Definitely would make it in there and Globes.
Yeah.
Like I don't think she's gonna win those, but she'll make it in.
No. I mean, like we're not talking about her winning anything,
Just
right?
getting in.
Like this is like
Just
I
get
mean, I
in.
know she wasn't first for a while, but we're just talking about her getting in. So
Yes.
like she'll get into those. Like this is not about winning.
Right.
And like she can definitely get into SAG. Like SAG is her best chance anywhere.
So she gets in all those places, and then she could still miss at the Oscars if the movie has gotten
Yeah,
like
it
out of sight,
actually
out of
it
mind.
reminds me of like Ruth Nega for Passing, who
Hmm.
hit, like surprisingly hit SAG because it didn't feel like a SAG movie,
But a
but it was
Netflix
also on
movie.
Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she missed out to Jessie Buckley, uh, coattail nom for The Lost
Lost Daughter.
Daughter, which
So
also which probably just missed Best Picture.
so then another Netflix movie too. But then so then maybe it's like she misses here. I guess maybe I'll drop. I guess long story short, maybe this will be moot in a day because I'll have dropped her for
You're gonna
already
replace
accepting
Danielle with Ariana.
and then feel bad about it. But I probably will do that. I don't know. I mean, seems likely, I guess, that this could happen. Um,
You're gonna do it. Just admit it right now.
should I just do it now to get over with?
Or do you want to feel like you're making an educated change after you see the movie?
Educated with this guy is not something
No,
you
it's just
say.
like you have a defense. Like I saw the movie,
Right.
so
All right. I guess I'll wait and keep her in fifth. Um, I mean, I could see her getting.
this change will happen by 9 p.m. Eastern tonight.
I
So
could see them both getting in though, and like somebody else missing. I guess I still like so Amelia Perez. We talked about this in our mailbag episode, Joyce, and I think the noise has only gotten louder now that it's released. It has absolutely taken the Oscar villain mantle of the online crowd.
I mean, I don't like expected. I don't know
And
what.
I don't know if it really matters in terms of like anything. And I still think Selena was getting in because I think the thing that people like about the movie, and even in Cannes, if you look at what it won and how the reviews were, it's like the performances are the thing. That's the juice of this movie. And there's an infectious like feeling around those actors together and the way they work together in the film. And so I think she'll probably be safe. And I think Isabella Rossellini is too. And Felicity Jones, while I was like trying to anti-dict her, I think that's stupid. So I'm gonna keep her in, basically. I just think she's like arguably the heart and soul of the movie, Joyce.
Felicity?
Yes.
Well, yeah, and then she also has a great moment at the end.
And so put those together, and I think she'll probably be okay.
I mean, she has like that moment is bigger than anything she did in Theory of Everything.
Remember Theory of Everything?
It's 10 years ago.
Let me ask you this broadly, a philosophical question about critics groups while we're here. Uh, we talked about in the past, I felt like the way these groups operated was not so much trying to is this tell me if this is full straw man and not real me, but my impression is like in the past it was where critics had like their highbrow tastes that were very different from Oscar tastes or Academy taste or industry tastes, and they're gonna like just tell you what the best stuff is that they liked. And now it's more of trying to either predict what the Oscars will do or think that their voice will impact the Oscars in a way that I don't think is real. Is that wrong, or am I like kind of right?
No, I think there's some truth to that. I think it's because of social media and then just like building a brand
Right.
and then having a following. And then I think people have this desire and need, this like unsatiated need to be right all the time.
Yes.
And this
Yes.
is what we do. This is all silly. This is a guessing game. You're
Yes.
not going to be right all the time. We say shit right now on November 6th that is going to be wrong on March 2nd, and that's totally fine.
And beyond that too, I think it's a. Did you feel this too? I feel like this happened maybe. I don't know, maybe last time with Danielle and certainly like Viola Davis that year when they were both snubbed. I feel like it's a disservice to the reader for us here, and I could be guilty of this too, certainly I'm not absolving myself to like not be on, like, you know what I mean? Like it seemed like unfathomable that they would get snubbed, and then you're kind of like priming a normie reader to expect them to get snubbed when maybe it wasn't as unexpected as like we thought. You know what I mean? Like it's like you're kind of like setting people up to be disappointed in a way, and
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
also
I think
not good.
that happens every year anyway, and it's, I mean, like with like casuals, like the problem is like if they see someone who's been nominated at a bunch of awards and then they miss the Oscar nomination, like I understand why like you think that's a huge snub, right? It's like they got into all these places and why not the Oscars? But it's like there's nuance to it, and it's about like the film and like the performance of the, not the actor, but of the performance of the film, and then just the tastes of the awards body you're dealing with. Like there are like things that you need to consider before just making a blanket statement that like how could they snub like so and so, or like worse, like just accuse people like, oh, they're so racist, like they snubbed Danielle and Viola.
Hmm.
And it's like Andrea Riseborough, like that whole thing was just so silly and stupid. It's and then it was like there like nothing she did, not to relitigate that, but like nothing about that campaign was illegal or bad. Like they just ran a grassroots campaign and it was optimized the right time.
Yes, we'll get comments saying that it was illegal and they changed these rules, but if you look at what they kind of just like lightly slap the wrist of like people who maybe
Yeah.
were aggressively campaigning,
They were
but I
just like
still
you have
think
to
that
be
goes
like
on.
more transparent about like
Right.
the events you're hosting, basically.
And I guess like one of the things, I guess with Danielle, I'll be curious to see like it, a little bit of like putting your like I feel like there's obviously an enthusiasm for Danielle Deadwyler in as a performer, and like people want her vindicated. I'm putting that in air quotes for missing for Till, and she's great in this movie. I don't think that anybody would really argue against that. It's like she's very good in the movie and would be deserving Oscar nominee if she is one. And I guess like will like I guess the lot what I'm trying to figure out is like will these critics who are like or and maybe I'm creating straw men here all over the place, but I'm like, will people who are online being like Danielle Deadwyler cannot be snubbed for this? Will they actually, if they're voting in like a group, will they put her in first? Or will they just be like, actually I'm gonna put Zoe Saldana in first or Margaret Qualley or whoever it is? And then when she gets snubbed, they're gonna be like, how could this happen? I guess, right? You know what I mean? Like when they wouldn't do it themselves. And I'll be curious to see if that happens, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, well, we'll never know what people voted for. That's the
Right.
thing.
But like if
So, but
she like
I
she
do
could
think I do think people ultimately vote for their favorite, and it may or may not be her. Like all the tweets could just be performative,
that's
right?
what I'm
But you could
wondering.
also consider like, like that's a great performance, but when you sit down to vote, would I actually vote for her? Like it'd be genuine. I'm like, oh, actually, no, I like so and so more. So I'm not gonna vote for her.
And
Like
in
I
this
don't think that that
category,
like it's not
yeah.
mutually exclusive. You can still like her and vote for someone else.
In this category, I'm worried that she's gonna feel like Margot Robbie more than anything else, where it's like, oh, everybody likes her in the movie, but she's like 4 or 5 maybe. And if I'm ranking my vote, put her maybe I'm not putting her in the top, and then enough people don't do that, and she misses out. It's a different type of movie. Obviously, Barbie's a Best Picture nominee, and Piano Lesson would be at this point surprising Best Picture nominee or a soft Best Picture nominee with like not a lot of other nominations. But I do feel like I wonder if there'll be a lot of people with their own faves because Ariana Grande's super funny and wicked, and like you're totally surprised by that, or Selena Gomez made you cry in Amelia Perez, or Zoe Saldana's a lead in Amelia Perez, or Isabella Rossellini you've loved for a million years, and you're just gonna say I'm gonna vote for her because she's in an Oscar movie finally that I like can realistically see her getting nominated for, and maybe Danielle's like 3, 4, and all of a sudden she misses. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of coming back to just it ironically the visibility of the film. It's like it's going to be on Netflix, but I think we know that Netflix's number one horse is Amelia Perez, and then I think they're also doing more for Maria and Angelina. And like that's also not, I mean, I don't know where that is in Best Picture, but it's not in the top 10.
No, I mean, with the other
That's
problem is
that's a
like
Best Actress play.
we've seen this with Netflix in the past. they have a lot of different people in the same category. So like Amelia Perez, you're juggling Zoe Saldana and Selena Gomez in a stronger movie than Piano Lesson. You also still have like Natasha Lyonne out, like you know what I mean, like Carrie Coon. Even though His Three Daughters is maybe out of sight, out of mind, I do think that could play well with critics groups, and people did really like that movie. And it could even be in its SAG. I think like Natasha Lyonne could get in its SAG also, like with Danielle.
Maria is in 46th place.
Hmm. So not what's right around it.
Well, right above it in 45th is Back to Black. Remember that?
With my fave
Uh,
Marissa Bella.
yeah, right below it, 47, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
Hmm.
48, Furiosa, a Mad Max
Oh,
Saga.
so good.
Baby
Um,
Girls in 44. That deserves to be higher. I saw that last week. That
you
should be
did,
high.
Joyce. I saw people in the comments were excited for your review. We're not going to review it, but I know you liked it.
Yes. Yes. And I think people are, or some people might expect it to be a different movie than what it actually is.
Good, a good tease, Joyce.
So
Uh, we're gonna wrap up here. That's it for piano lesson. I guess we'll see how it. I have her in. I'll see if I drop her, and
you're
then
gonna
it's
drop her. We
and
know
then
you're
it's
gonna drop her.
SAG. I don't have it in. I think I only have her in at SAG. I don't think I have John David. We didn't even mention John David Washington. We could do a tight two on John David Washington. Talk to him and tell you, right, Joyce? So you know I love this guy.
You've told this story like 7 times already.
It's my only claim to fame. So I spoke to John David Washington. Love him. I think he's good in the movie, and I don't think he'll get nominated for an Oscar, or maybe he could get in at SAG. In SAG, you know what I did this week?
What?
I put Jarrell Jerome in fifth for SAG.
For Unstoppable?
Yes. I cannot get that performance out of my head. And I was like, what if
You
the
just you
SAG?
just can't believe he looks like he has one leg.
I truly think it's a great physical performance, and he also nails the emotional stuff. I don't know. The SAG nominating committee, I think, could really like that movie. I don't think it's hard to believe that he would get in, I guess. But I don't have John David Washington there, long story short. And I have Danielle, and that's it. I don't have any of the actors either. So, and I don't have it for uh ensemble.
I can definitely see it getting ensemble, like
I,
ensemble and her.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Ensemble is tricky too, because I consider changing it up the other day, but then I just didn't do it. I was like, I don't
I,
even know.
I actually did. I dropped the Brutalist. I think it will get the three individual nominations and not the ensemble.
Yeah, I was like, I wanted to drop it too, but I didn't know what to replace it with, and I was like, I don't
So
have time.
I replaced it with Saturday Night, which I mean maybe is like out of sight, out of mind, but I just couldn't stop thinking of how it has 26 or 25 different solo title cards. It's just like it,
That's
everyone
that's
is
like 3/4 of the credits.
I'm like, there's so many actors in it, even by default. Maybe just if everybody who's in the movie knows 10 people who are in SAG on the nom committee, it's like very likely they're just like writing it in. I would be a deserving nominee too, because I think the ensemble is really good. But yeah, I took out the Brutalist just because I was like, that feels like a red herring that it would get ensemble. He says now, and watch it be wrong. But it just feels like it'll get all the individual actors in the non ensemble.
Yeah, like I can see it getting in if they really don't care about any other film, but it's
Hmm.
SAG too, and I feel like they'll probably do like something weird. I don't know.
I also felt like so like this is a complete tangent here as we're wrapping up. But I have Amelia Perez. I think you would too, right? Like that's first in the odds. Even with the small ensemble, that ensemble of actresses is
It's a
like
very small ensemble.
the thing. That is like the thing. I still have Sing Sing. I'm still bullish on that movie, and I think the ensemble feels this is the most SAG of these movies to me. A Conclave, I love that ensemble, and I think they would get in. I still have a Nora, which we've talked about. I feel like it's a great ensemble. And maybe that's the quote weird one where it's like, and then I have Saturday Night. So that's actually the top five of the odds. Brutalist is sixth, Piano Lesson seventh, Gladiator 2 is eighth, Dune Part 2 is ninth, and then The Apprentice is 10th. Did one person predict it? And
Why?
September 5 is 11th, Nickel Boys 12, Wicked 13. I think Wicked could move up here pretty quickly as
Wicked could definitely, I mean, Color Purple got in.
I
But
think what I could see happening for me is dropping Saturday Night and putting Wicked in, but we'll see.
yeah, remember when they nominated Babylon and Women Talking?
What a time. I guess that's why Nickel Boys is high up there. Um, Last thing before we go, Joyce, and we'll be back with our mailbag episode on Friday. We have so many emails already. But if you want to email us, it's slugfest@goldderby.com. I can't wait to read these emails, Joyce. We have so many good ones. So a little tease there, including a good one from David L.
Wow, is it long though?
It's a little long. I saw Here, Joyce, in the movies.
Yes, you mentioned that.
I haven't cried watching a movie that hard in so
You
long.
cried at Here.
Wept in the car on the way home, weeping. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Kind of goes with the thing I was saying before about Juror number two being like just a regular movie. First of all, like I don't think Tom Hanks has been as good in a movie in like a million years. I thought he was so good. Robin Wright, fantastic. I thought the script was great. The score is awesome. I think the visual effects are great. What if this actually gets in for visual effects? It's the best of this de-aging stuff that we've ever seen, I would argue.
Um, I can see it making the
The
short
short
list.
list. It's obviously flopped. So the headlines are not what you want. It's a lot of like, this
I
is
think
bad.
I think what's worse about it flopping, like it can flop, but it's also that everyone loves Juror number two.
So people like Juror number two and they didn't like this. But I got to tell you, look at Letterboxd. Not that it means anything.
It That's not a letterbox movie though.
Here is done really well on Letterboxd. I'm just saying, like, I think it's like a lot of like people on Letterboxd like were like, oh, this is good. Let them be I follow at least. It's surprisingly
I
good.
will say like that movie is something my normie friends have heard of, and they have not heard of like all these other Oscar movies.
I obviously it's never going to get nominated, but I was like, if you watch, I was like, man, in another life, this would be a heavy, I think, production design. I thought the editing, the way they weave the story together is like really interesting. And we talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago, and like, or maybe we got an email about it. What would be more off-putting, the fixed camera or the first person from Nickel Boys? The fixed camera in Here, the first person Nickel Boys, and we both said Here would be more amenable, I think, or the Nickel Boys version would be more off-putting, right? Like I think that's how we landed. And watching the movie, I was like, man, the reason the fixed camera works so well is because of the way the story just moves. It's very well edited. You're kind of moving around. It's a lot different than I maybe thought it would be because it's jumping through time a lot. I am totally here pilled. I literally, I was like, the last Robert Zemeckis movie I even liked was Castaway, I think, and just fully
I
in.
can't believe you cried. Okay, I just want everyone to know that yesterday Chris asked me if Heretic was scary.
Yes,
Like you're worried about Heretic and you cried at Here.
you saw Heretic Choice this week. I guess
It is
well,
not scary.
I was worried it was a scary movie.
You were scared that it was going to be scary. I'm like, that's not what it is. Like it's a philosophical thriller.
Uh,
And I put Hugh Grant in my Globes predictions.
so is he a
But
lead or supporting in Globes?
I mean, they're all three of them really. Like they're only yeah, characters. They're all it's full lead, and Topher Grace is really the other. I mean, there's another supporting character there, but all three of them are the leads because it's just them in the house.
So you put him in for Globes. Do you think he could get in SAG? I mean, like we're looking for people.
No, I don't think they'll
Okay,
go for him. You're just like stretching yourself. Don't think about this so much.
that's all I
Just
can
leave it
think
alone.
about. I have him in at the Globes too. Look at that. I
Just leave it
even
alone.
way to go me. I didn't even realize I had him in. That category is. This is what I have. Tell me what you have, and then we could wrap up. I have Jesse Eisenberg, Glenn Powell, Sebastian Stan, Gabriel LaBelle, Michael Keaton, and Hugh Grant. When did
Yeah,
I
that's
do
what I have.
this?
I just put him in. I don't even. Oh, I had Jason Schwartzman, and I
Hmm.
just dropped him and put him in it. So
Uh. Anyway, here, Joyce, weeping.
you would.
Uh. We're gonna be back tomorrow with our mailbag episode, and then next week we're gonna talk about Amelia Perez, Joyce, because it's on Netflix next week.
As if we haven't talked about it enough.
I've never mentioned this movie. I can't wait to find out about it. Amelia Perez and whether it could win Best Picture and where else I could put it in. So look forward to that. I'll talk to you then, Joyce. Bye.